Hello everyone, apologies for not being there today, but we've had some technical issues in getting our flights down. So I'll do a brief introduction for myself. I am Matthew Coleman. I am a part-time PhD student at Heriot University, but I am also the Senior Marine Scientist at Orkney Sustainable Fisheries, the regional inshore fishery group for Orkney. And today I'm going to be talking about an ongoing project, and that being crab tagging around the Scottish coast and the movements that we're starting to pick out from this crab tagging project. So as part of the presentation, I'm going to outline what I'm going to talk about. So to begin with, I'm going to provide an overview of previous Orkney Sustainable Fisheries tagging work, the results of this tagging work, and then how that feeds into the new Regional Inshore Fishery Group project, the results of this project, and what these results are showing us so far, and what the future direction of research and discussions that might come out of such the results of this project. So an overview of the previous crab tagging project work. So Orkney Sustainable Fisheries have been tagging crabs since 2010 to 2016. Over this 6-year period, we've tagged a total of over 7,500 crabs within the inshore fishery. We've targeted predominantly soft-shelled individuals. This has limited the cost to participating fishers, as these individuals will be normally discarded. We've targeted both male and female crabs. And in this case, the tags that we've used are cable tags. These are just sequentially numbered cable tie tags, which have a tag number and a reporting telephone number on, which the fisherman then rings up and gives us the information. Here we have an example of, on the left-hand side, we have a collection of crabs that are ready to go back into the sea. And on the right-hand side, we have an example of the position of the tags. On both, the top is a female crab and the bottom is a large male crab. So this gives you an idea of where we have distributed the tags over the course of 2010 to 2016. We did a lot of tagging along the west coast of Orkney and on the island of Hoy. I don't know if my pointer is working. So we did a lot of tagging on the west coast of the mainland of Orkney and on the larger island of Hoy, which is below the mainland, and we've done opportunistic tagging along in the Northern Isles and limited amount of tagging on the east side of Orkney. So this gives you an idea of where these releases occurred. So moving on to the recaptures that we saw. So this is the male crab recaptures from the Orkney Sustainable Fisheries releases. So generally the direction and the distances used or travelled by male crabs were severely limited. So in this case, they moved on average 6 kilometres. Stayed mainly within inshore areas and didn't move a great deal. There was a couple of individuals that moved large distances between the islands, but in general they moved very short distances from their initial releases. In comparison, female crabs were seen to move considerable distances, or in some cases some moved large distances whilst others moved predominantly short distances. At this point in time, we're trying to pick out what split that is between individuals released between those that went large distances and those that went short distances. So as we can see on the right hand side, the map here shows that some females illustrated short directional travels and limited movements from initial release sites, whilst there was a portion of the individuals that moved greater distances, with the largest distance recorded in this case being over 250 kilometres in a straight line. This doesn't take into account actual movements around the Scottish coastline, and this individual was initially tagged in off the southwest of Orkney, and then has subsequently migrated around and down into the Isle of Skye, where it has been subsequently recaptured by the inshore fleet. It's important to note, though, at the same time, we have had crabs that have been recaptured in the offshore fishery that operates out of Orkney and out of the north coast. So this illustrates that there is some sort of overlap between these inshore and offshore fisheries, and this is going to become an important point in the future, which I will also talk about. So from these long distance migrations, we've started to see that there's been a lot of overlap between the regional inshore fishery groups within Scotland. So on the right hand side, we have the established regional inshore fishery group areas and how the long distance migrations have overlapped within these areas. So we can see here those that are tagged in Orkney have then subsequently overlapped into the two mainland regional inshore fishery groups, but also within the Outer Hebrides IFG. So this brings us on to the following question of, like, if we're seeing female brown crabs in Orkney moving in a westward direction into these other RFIG areas, what does that mean for the crabs that are being caught within the ones such as on the west coast and Outer Hebrides? What direction are these crabs moving in, and what does that mean for overall sustainability of these inshore areas, and what does that mean also for management? This has resulted in us instigating a 3-year project, which is the Regional Inshore Fishery Group Crab Tagging Project. So this project is running from 2018 to 2020. It is looking at doing broad-scale crab tagging across Scotland, involving fishers from all areas, with the aim of tagging 4,000 tags per year per regional IFG area, with the total aim of trying to get 10,000 tags out there per IFG over this time period. So this project is entirely dependent on fishermen tagging the crabs, and this has resulted in us adopting a slightly different methodology of actually tagging them. We still kept the same methodology or parts of it from the previous sustainable fisheries tagging project, where we are still tagging predominantly soft-shelled crabs, but in this case we're skewing it more heavily towards female crabs. We're operating on a 4-to-1 ratio of 4 female crabs to every 1 male crab tagged, as it is the female crabs that are doing these large distance migrations and moving between different areas. But we've still kept some male crabs in it to provide some sort of information on localized male movements within each area. So the new methodology itself has been simplified for fishermen. So in this case, previously what we do as the inshore fish group is we write down the individual tag numbers and record the individual size and sex. But to make this more streamlined for fishermen, what we've done is we've arranged the tags in batches of 10. Each batch then has its own unique number. So the fisherman is provided with a tagging logbook. They write down the batch number. They then take 10 soft crabs from their catch, assign them to a category of size ranging from small to extra large. They write down the number of individuals per category. They then attach the tags, snip off the ends so it's only leaving the tag number, the main plastic cable tie with the tag number and the reporting telephone number. They then throw the individuals over the side and record the lat and long of where they put them. All in all, this has been seen as a relatively easy way of doing it. This has cut down the amount of writing the fisherman has to do and has made it a lot more streamlined and generally easier. In terms of the researcher side of things, all the batch numbers have the corresponding tag numbers inside of them, so when a tag is recaptured we can backtrack that tag number to the initial batch release point. So this is an indication of the project so far. In this there's also the older Orkney data, which was collected from 2010 to 2016, as well as data that's been collected over the last 2018-2019. What we can see here is there's the westward migration that we've seen in the Orkney population, but also what we're seeing now, especially along the west coast, we have a lot of tagging happening around on the Isle of Mull, and we're starting to see the distribution of individuals over there. We also see the mixing between the Western Isles reported recaptures as well as the west coast. We've had limited reportings from the north and east coast, but we're looking at addressing that now. And Shetland have also been partaking in the project, and they've also looked at showing us some indication between the mixing between Shetland and the Orkney population. This brings us on to where these recaptures are and in terms of management. So here we have the releases and recaptures from the project inside the current 12 stock specimen areas used by Marine Scotland to assess the sustainability of all the stocks. What we're seeing here is that there's broad scale movement between these areas with, currently to my understanding, there's very limited consideration between the movement of these populations between how each of these stock assessment areas is assessed. So if we're saying one area is sustainable whilst another isn't, but we're seeing large migration of individuals between these areas, what is the actual reliability of these sustainable? So how sustainable are these populations ultimately if they're moving between these areas and this isn't considered within management? What we're also seeing, especially on the west coast, is the movement of individuals from the west coast fishery into both the Irish and the Northern Irish fishery, which is indicated down the south, down the bottom of the map. So there's large numbers of recaptures happening with the Irish fishery. This brings into question, like, should there be a more broad-scale management objectives at both a national and an international scale going forward? So what are the next steps? The project is looking at increasing the tagging over 2019 and 2020. We're looking at increasing participation from the north and east coast fishers. Long term, what's the project's aims? We're looking at establishing what the existing management structure is, how the assessments are currently done, should we look at changing them perhaps, and that's a discussion to have both at an regional IFG level, but also at a high level with Marine Scotland. The project's highlighting the linkage between inshore and offshore fisheries. This is sometimes a hot topic especially within inshore fishermen, with the large-scale offshore brown crab fisheries that now occur and the large number of removals that they're concerned about. And then also what's happening is there's Irish sea tagging, which is commencing in 2019 and 2020 off both the Welsh coast and the Isle of Man. So it'll be interesting to see how these tag recaptures fall within this project and what that means for the overall movement of crab stocks around the British Isles. I hope that's been clear. It's been a bit of a whirlwind presentation. Apologies again for not being there, but if you have any further questions, please feel free to contact me on either my work email address at Sustainable Fisheries or my university one at Heriot-Watt. Thank you very much.